Hey everyone, I'm Nathan, and that's right, today we're going to be drawing York from Drawtectives. So Drawtectives is a series on Drawfee, which is hosted by Julia Lapetite, and it follows our band of misfit detectives as they try to draw, reason, and joke their way into solving a murder mystery. In this video, you're gonna watch me do this speed draw, and also hear me gush about my headcanons. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So obviously, I was very excited to draw York because he's a giant dumb himbo and one of my favorite characters. I love how Jacob plays him, and I also love that we just know the most about his backstory. Like, we know next to nothing about Rose other than she was a former rogue and she has a mysterious past. And we know that Grandma slash Grendon is from the Highforge family, but we really know the most about York, and that's for two reasons. York is funny and he's easy to make fun of. So the Drawfee crew is always making fun of him because he's a fish out of water, and they just keep adding to like orc lore and stuff like that because it's easy to do. So because there's just so much there, I wanted to do a full illustration that's a flashback. So this is a flashback to the northern tribes, and we're in the moment where we're just hours away from York doing ritual combat with his brother. Now, for those of you who don't know, either because you didn't watch Drawtectives, hello, what's wrong with you? Or because you may have forgotten, hello, not your fault. Time is an illusion. York killed his brother in ritual combat in order to become the leader of the orc tribe. Now, this fact was always really interesting to me because it sounds like he killed his brother to become the leader of the tribe, but his only motivation for doing so was because York is obsessed with being the strongest, and so he only did it to prove himself like the most strong, and then he immediately leaves and decides to go to like the human city in order to spend time with his mom's side of the family and like learn about his mom's culture. I thought this was so fascinating, and I'm going to talk about this a little later on in the video, but I'll go ahead and say here, the idea that your leader of your tribe would be killed and then the new leader immediately runs away, let's just say that's not very good leadership skills. So I wonder what York's tribe thinks about him to this day. Like, that's something that really fascinates me. But anyway, I'll talk about that later. Let's talk about right now, and that's the emotional beat of this scene. So I knew I had a couple options. I could either draw York fighting his brother, or I could draw like maybe York with his dad. But because York is a character so much defined by his strength and his fighting abilities, I was like, I want to be a little more subversive than that. I don't want to just draw like a bloody action scene. If you would really like to see that, I don't know, let me know in the comments down below, and maybe I'll do some like action poses or something. But I really wanted to do something with a little more juxtaposition, something a little more soft. And so because of that, I went with York with his mother. So York's mom has never been depicted in the series, and I know Julia would give her a really amazing name, but for me and my headcanon, I'm just going to call her York's mom, and whenever more information comes out about her, I will make adjustments accordingly. But I always just picture Jane Goodall, or like Jane from Tarzan and Jane. It's like this scientist who's just going out into the wilderness and the jungle to like study orc culture or something like that. Or maybe an animal that's like nearby orcs, and I don't know, it's just giving very Avatar. It's giving very much Jake Sully and the Na'vi, so that's the vibe we're going with. So his mom has like set up a camp outside of the like stronghold of the northern tribe, and that's where she like lives with her record player and all her books and stuff. And so York is there with all these attendants who are like getting him ready for like the big fight. And so I knew I wanted the attendants to be like his coach in this moment, dabbing his head for sweat, holding up water so that he can drink it to hydrate, wrapping his arms with like those bandages. I actually don't know what the purpose of that is in fighting. I just know that like I've seen it in anime and stuff. So wrapping him up, putting on war paint, all that good stuff. Meanwhile, you can tell from the expression on his mom's face, she's like trying to talk him out of it. Like, hey, York, I know that you want to prove that you're the strongest, but maybe, killing your brother would be negative on your psyche, and maybe this isn't the best plan. And then also, you would then be the leader of the tribe, and you're not interested in politics. And, we've been talking about you coming and visiting my side of the family. So maybe this isn't the best time to do this. And York's just like, what are you talking about? This is a great idea. I'm just going to go kill my brother, become the leader of the tribe, therefore proving I am the strongest. And since everyone will know I'm the strongest, they'll respect my decision making because I am the strongest one here. And then I'll just leave and go hang out with you. And that's just like so funny to me because it also brings us to the point of York is really dumb. So everything we know about Orcish culture is sort of through an unreliable narrator. Like, we don't know how much of it is actually true and how much is just like what York arbitrarily believes or thinks this is how the world works, but it's not really how the world works. I'd honestly love a mystery just set in the North because I would be really excited to meet all of the orcs that aren't York but know him, just so we could get that outsider perspective, someone objective who can actually learn orc culture from, because I feel like there's a lot of really interesting things that Julia could do with it, particularly when it comes to gender. So you might notice the bluish orc that's currently wrapping York's left wrist. I think his left or right. I'm dyslexic. I apologize if that's wrong. But you see that he actually has scars from top surgery, which kind of like implies that he's transmasculine. And I just really love that idea. Originally, I was just going to have a bunch of like handmaidens who were getting him ready. And I was like, you know what? No. What if there's like a transmasculine person here? I don't know. And that just got me thinking about orcs and their value systems. So one of my headcanons is that because the orcs value strength above everything else, they really don't give a lot of thought to sexuality and gender. Like, that really doesn't matter to them. They only care about how strong you are. And that kind of perfectly correlates to York's character. I think Jacobs actually said before that York is almost asexual. Like, he really only cares about if you can arm wrestle him. He doesn't really care about your gender. They only value strength. And so a society that values strength above everything else, it'd be interesting to see like the silver linings to a society like that. Like, obviously there's a lot of problematic things from only valuing strength and not like empathy and kindness. But yeah, I just feel like it'd be a really cool setting for a murder mystery to take place. And now I'm gonna do a little side tangent. You may have noticed I included a pupper. So the reason I included this dog is because there was like a one-off comment that Jacob made one time about how he like trained warhounds. And so that's pretty much it. I included the warhound and I just wanted to draw a dog with a large snoot because I felt like that would be cute and it kind of balanced out all of the figures in the foreground very interestingly. Y'all, when I first started this piece, I was more excited to draw the North than I was our lovable green himbo. Like, what do the wildlands look like? In my mind, I always kind of conceptualize them as like part jungle, but also part ancient ruins. And I find that really fascinating. Like, maybe ancient orcs built these ruins, but more probably ancient orcs killed the people who were the architects of this ancient advanced architecture, and then they sort of like appropriated it and claimed it as their space. And that just got me thinking, maybe York's mom is like an archaeologist and she's studying these ruins and like learning about this ancient culture. And that's where she like met the Orcish tribes and fell in love with his dad. Or maybe they just had one really passionate night of adrenaline. Oh my gosh. But yeah, I knew when I was designing this place, another big feature I wanted was bones. I wanted to have a rope bridge and bones everywhere. And I have a very good reason for this. So one, I was very inspired by Breath of the Wild, particularly the bokoblins and how they live in these like weird giant skeletons that live in like the skull or like a rib cage. I just love that design choice. And because in Orcish society, York has said that they view bones as money or currency, this is like the equivalent of like the expression, oh, it's such a great city, like the streets are paved in gold, or like in The Wizard of Oz, having an emerald city. For an Orcish tribe, if you were to live in a very rich city, it wouldn't be streets paved in gold, it would be streets built out of bones. So I included a lot of bones. I love this like rib cage that I end up putting in one corner where there's sort of a bazaar with lots of like tents overhanging and streamers to like provide shade from the sun. Like maybe it's like a rec center or a bazaar or like a common area area, maybe a town hall, who knows? And just having that kind of juxtapose the little encampment that was obviously very much inspired by the Tarzan movie when all the gorillas are singing that song, where York's mom lives like just outside of the community and she has to like walk into it. I knew I obviously wanted to include a bunch of jungle trees and foliage. I really wanted to go for a tropical vibe with waterfalls, but then also I wanted to answer the question that's on everyone's minds. Wild trains? What are they? What do they look like? Where do they come from? Where do they go? And I only answer some of those questions. I just had this visual of in the horizon, these giant treacherous, very dangerous, spiky spires that shoot out of the ground, and you can just see one wild train in the distance. But the way that trains can like go underground, that was something very interesting to me. So I like to imagine that wild trains burrow, and that's why they're so dangerous, because they can literally spring out of the ground and come after you. And that would just be like the most terrifying thing actually to stumble upon in the middle of a forest. So I wanted to include those spires over there, and I thought about putting a wild train kind of like up front and center. I feel like the orcs would purposely choose strongholds that are very much meant to keep the wild trains out, like territories that they are sanctioned off and separated from them. I also took far too long with like coloring this piece. I kept like trying to make certain decisions and then like second guessing myself, but I really wanted this to look like a tropical rainforest and not like a pine forest in Georgia. So I ended up adding a lot of sort of unnatural colors like purples and deep blues, just so it looked a little more foreign and exotic, I guess is the best word to say. Just not a North American forest. Also, side note again, this tree that you see with like these little star fruits is a reference to Kingdom Hearts. I don't know if anyone's going to pick that up, but at the beginning of that game, you like are supposed to share a fruit with Kairi, and it's supposed to like bind your souls together, but you end up losing to Riku because he's a fucking cheater. Just kidding. He wins fair and square, but he's way too fast. But I just included that because it was cute, and I made a Kingdom Hearts video a couple of weeks ago, and it's just been on the mind. I'm allowed to make fan art from nostalgia. That's totally allowed. But also, I had a really important reason for including this tree, and that was for the surprise third act twist of this video, York's sister. So, York's sister is not really canon, but is kind of canon, because this design comes from a video from 2 years ago called October Drawing Prompts. That's on the Drawfee Extra channel. Go check it out here on YouTube. Jacob designs this like what he calls like an alien character, but everyone in the chat, including Julia, kept being like, this looks like York's sister. And I love that idea. I love the idea of York having a sister, because if you remember what we talked about earlier, how would a tribe feel if their leader was killed and then the new leader shirks all responsibility and runs away to like discover another part of their culture? You would feel betrayed and you would feel vengeful. So my idea is that this is York's sister, who is a full orc, and she is like trying to hunt down York to like kill him and reclaim the throne, because she's like, you abandoned us, you abandoned your people, we have no leadership, so I'm here to kill you in ritual combat and take the throne, because I actually want to lead my people and care about us. Obviously that isn't her mindset in this image. This is right before York has abandoned the people, so at this point I imagine that she sort of looks up to York, like maybe she's younger, but because she's an orc she's like taller because of genetics. But I imagine here his sister like looks up to him and is like, oh my gosh, York is going to be such a great leader because he's so strong. He's the strongest. And so maybe she's starting to believe after he deserts everyone, she's going to be like, maybe strength isn't the most important thing. Maybe it's like loyalty or something. And so she's like questioning the orcish values of their society or something nerdy like that. That was just my idea for it. I really love how she came out. I really loved the atmospheric perspective I put on her and all of the background all together. And then the very last thing I do is give York war paint, because I felt like it just needed a little more of a certain je ne sais quoi to finish off this image. And with that, this is the finished image. I'm super in love with how it turned out, as always. I rarely post things that turn out badly. I don't know what I'm gonna do if like I ever draw something I completely hate. I guess I'll just skip that part of the video. But yeah, what did you think of my headcanons? What do you think of this depiction or this interpretation of the North? I also thought like maybe because it's North, it's snowy, but we don't know the scientific biomes of this planet or this world, so I went tropical up north. But maybe you think that shouldn't be the case. Let me know what your headcanons are about the North or your favorite characters I depicted in this video. Feel free to like, subscribe, and check me out on Patreon, where for just $4 a month, you can have your name in the end credits. Isn't that fun? And there's a bunch of other fun boons over there too. With all that being said, it's that time again, folks, for the end credits. Special thanks to Blue Uwu, Christopher, MOE, Game of Catan on IG, Gay Jairus, Melon, Prance, SL Blue, Smalls the Sax Jammer, Thumper Daytime, Tarthalinor, Tuesdays Anyways, and Tuppets Pies. My name is Nathan. I upload every Wednesday and Saturday, and I'll see you soon. Bye!